My name is Hannah, and this is my beauty budget. Hello, hi everyone. So this is part 2 of my 2-part reckoning video. In the first video, I showed you all of the things that I had decided not to keep from the purgatory box in this round of reckoning. And in this video, I'm going to show you all of the things that made it through the reckoning, the things that I decided that I do want to keep. I think that that's all I have to say. It's very clear. We are all on the same page. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is the Erin's Faces Radiant Firming Concealer. This is such a pretty product. Such a pretty product. And I wasn't sure about it when I first tried it. When I first opened it, I was so impressed because the packaging is luxurious. It's thick glass and it's a big tube. It just feels wonderful. It just feels dreamy. But when I first opened it and swatched it, I saw that it is pretty much exactly the shade of my skin tone. It's darker. I guess I should swatch in my inner arm. I'm going to swatch my other concealers along with it. So it's darker than my other concealers, but you can see by the swatch that it's a perfect match, right? It's like a perfect match. It's basically the ideal foundation shade for me. It has skincare ingredients in it, which is wonderful. It is incredibly nourishing, you guys. Like, I can't even, it's unlike any other concealer I've tried. And granted, I haven't tried very many concealers, but it just feels like it's nourishing the skin, and it's very, very emollient. I think that most people would want to set this. I have very dry skin. I don't like powdering my face, and I also don't necessarily mind like a dewiness, like a true dewiness on the face throughout the day. So I don't set this, and I love the way it looks. It's almost like it looks like I just sprayed my face with setting spray the whole time. So I really, really love everything about this, except for that the color is more of a foundation shade than a concealer shade. So here is my go-to kind of like when I was shopping around for the perfect go-to skin-like brightening concealer. I wanted something that would really brighten my under eyes and that I could use to help match the high points of my face to my neck, so that my face would match my neck better because my neck is so bright and so yellow in tone. So this is the Makeup Forever Ultra HD Longwear Concealer, and it's actually in the shade Pearl, which is the second lightest shade. The very lightest shade was kind of too white for me. But here it is next to the one from Erin's Faces, and you can see that it is much whiter and also much yellower. But you can also see that from a distance, the Erin's Faces one blends perfectly into my skin, whereas you can see that this kind of brightens my skin, especially when you look at like the places up here where my skin is a little bit lighter. You can see how this would be my highlighting shade and this would be like my skin tone shade. And then just because I have them here, this is the Touche Eclat Radiant High Cover Concealer, and it's a tiny bit darker and a tiny bit yellower than my Makeup Forever. And then this is the original Touche Eclat, which is more peach than either of those two. So it's brightening in its undertone as well. And then this, so right there at the top, I've swatched my NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer in Chantilly, which is the lightest shade. This has for a long time been my perfect blemish concealer, my perfect spot concealer, because it too blends better into my skin tone. But you can see that it's a bit yellower, it's a little bit less peachy than the one from Erin's Faces. So these all look slightly different from each other, but they all work. Like they're close enough, they're all close enough to my skin tone that they all work as concealers. It's just interesting to see the difference. And if you've been checking out the one from Erin's Faces and you're curious, I tend to go for really yellow toned concealers because I have a warm undertone, sort of like warm neutral. The Erin's Faces concealer is truly neutral. And the one thing I noticed looking at the shade range, which is quite small compared to bigger brands, but Erin's Faces is a really, really, really small brand. So I completely understand that they couldn't afford to launch a wider shade range, but the spread of the shades is pretty good. The thing that I noticed looking at all the shades is that they're all very neutral. So she made a pretty even spread of shades and she made them all very neutral, which I think was a good move. If you're only able to bring out a handful, then that's, I think, the way to do it. So the thing that I've been doing with this concealer is I've been using it kind of as like a foundation, not a foundation, like as a tint, because I'll put it on and really, really, really sheer it out. And the dewiness, the finish is so delicious, so skin-like, so hydrating. I love putting it on my skin. And because of the way that the shade just blends into my skin, it works really well for evening out my skin tone all over my face. And it is a pretty thick emollient product, but it's taking really well to me shearing it out, and it definitely doesn't feel like there's a thick layer of something on my face after I've applied it. So at first I thought I wasn't going to get along with this because of the shade, and then after having messed around with it here and there a little bit for a week or two, I suddenly found the perfect use for it, and that really, really impressed me. So this is definitely a keeper. And it's interesting, I now have 5 concealers. These are my 5 concealers, and they're all a little bit different, and they all serve different purposes. I definitely don't need this many, but I feel like this is nice. This is working for me. This is another makeup product that impressed me way more than I expected it to. It is from Lancome, and it's the Blush Subtil in the shade Miel Glacé. This was sent to me by Lancome through Octoly, and I picked it. So I saw they had these blushes in the Octoly free store, and they had a bunch of shades and you were able to pick. So I looked around at some swatches, and I just picked this one because it looked like it might be the perfect sort of, I don't know, natural, fleshy color. A bit browner than most of the other offerings. Maybe I could put it on with this little blush brush. And the other reason that I picked it is that it wasn't matte. And these days I have been struggling with matte blushes because I don't really like that look of like a colorful cheek with a metallic highlighter over top of it. I like it to all be blended together. So this looked sheeny. Look at that. Can you see it shining? It looked sheeny and beautiful, and I was excited to try it. But then when I got it, 2 things happened that really surprised me. One, I put it on and I was blown away. Like, I wish you could see my face right now so I could express myself more fully. I was blown away. It looks just like a sunburn sort of turning into a tan, which doesn't happen to me because I don't really tan. But it really has that natural sun-kissed look. Like, I mean, honestly, there's something really, really special about the color balance in this blush. I really, really love it. Then I posted a picture of myself on Instagram wearing it, and a bunch of people commented that they own this exact one, or it's like their all-time favorite blush, or they panned it. And I realized that this is kind of an iconic blush. Like, this exact blush in this exact color is a classic. And I didn't realize that when I selected it from my Octoly free store. So I'm really excited about it. And to be honest, it's been hard to put this down since it arrived. So it's a definite keeper. All right, let's talk about something else that was in my Octoly free store that I requested. This is from the brand Pure. And to be honest, I only asked if they would send it to me because I really, really needed a brow pencil. I didn't have a particular outstanding interest in this one, the Arch Nemesis, although the name is fantastic, but I really like it. And I don't really like this. I don't really like this toothbrush brush. I really like a regular spoolie, but the shade is perfect for me. This like what's it called? So it's in the shade Dark, and it's interesting because the bigger end is a little bit more gray toned, the sort of filler end, and then the little hair strokes end is a little bit darker, and it's a dark, cool toned ashy brown, which is perfect for my brows. It's a very dry formula, almost chalky, so it works pretty well with the soap that I use in my brows because it doesn't sort of bleed into the soap and get all mushy. I think I still like the ColourPop one better, but for now this will absolutely do. So I'm going to keep it, I'm going to use it up. Okay, here are 3 palettes that were all in the purgatory box, and I'm going to keep all of them. But before I open them up and talk about them, let's go ahead and have our ad break. I just realized that I didn't put an ad break in verbally in the video that I just filmed about the things that didn't make it through the purgatory box. I'm gonna have to just insert it without saying anything. Scandalo. But in this one I remembered. I'll be right back after these messages. All right, we're back from the ad break. So the 3 palettes that I'm keeping from the purgatory box. This is the Sahara palette from Alter Ego. This is the Persona Identity 2 palette, and this is the Persona Copper Color Theory palette, which I love. So I already talked about, let's go through one by one. So I already talked about the Identity 2 palette in my recent video about products that have impressed me. I'm not going to go on at length about it right now, but you can at least see it kind of more close up, and you can see that I've gotten pretty good use out of it. Let's see, what I usually do when I reach into this is I reach into Resilient. I love a smoked out bronze eye. I've been getting a ton of use too out of Confident and Empowered. I'm like really, really into this, I don't know, like ruddy purpley eye. And then I love this matte, this coral matte. So those are probably my 4 most used shades. I've also been getting a ton of use out of the black and brown for deepening up other eye looks. This is just gorgeous. It is so, so gorgeous. I mean, no question. I feel like of the 3 of these, this is the one that I'm the most clear about keeping. But this, I love. I love. This surprised me so much. I mean, you can tell the formula is amazing as it is in this one. You can tell just by looking that this is a really great kind of capsule palette for me with my tastes. It's got that sort of soft, bricky matte. Passionate is more strawberry, and Brick is a little bit more red, but they're similar. They imply similar things. And then Resilient is more of a mid-toned or cool-toned brown, and Copper here is more of a copper bronze. But again, like those are the ones that I tend to go for when I open these 2 palettes. And they're both so stunning. I feel really, really lucky to have those. This is another gem from Alter Ego. And I'll swatch a couple of these shadows. It's the dupe for the Natasha Denona Biba palette. The thing that surprised me the most about this is that they attempted to dupe the textures, the formulas a little bit, not just the colors. And when it comes to duping Natasha Denona, I feel like you've at least got to make an attempt to dupe the textures, because that's what makes her work so spectacular. So you can really see it down here on this one called Slate. You can kind of see how it's a little bit creamy, and you can sort of see, I really dug into it, but you can kind of see like a sheen on the surface because it's more of a cream to matte than their regular mattes. You can see it there. See how it's sort of sheeny a little bit? That's not really coming from any kind of micas in the pigment. It's coming from the fact that it's a little bit of a creamy matte formula. I think it's still softer and more crumbly than the one from Natasha Denona, because people are always talking about how the cool thing about the Natasha Denona black in the Biba palette is that it doesn't have any fallout because it's a cream to matte. This black is very beautiful, very creamy, and has a little bit of that sheen to it, but it definitely does have some crumbly fallout. So it's not as creamy, but it's cool that they at least tried. I just think it's cool that they at least tried to make this palette as textural as the Biba palette. I love this bronze. I mean, I'm a sucker for a bronze eyeshadow. It's one of my favorite things. And I find that bronzes tend to lean warm. It's hard to find a bronze that's like really, really sort of shimmery neutral, one that you wouldn't call a copper. And this one suits me. I have worn this all over my eyes as a single shadow eye look on multiple occasions since this arrived just over a week ago, I think. I'm gonna swatch this one too, because I'll often buff this out. I'll use the bronze one, and then I'll use this really shiny peach shadow. Sorry, these swatches are literal garbage. I'll use this really shiny peach shadow to buff it out into my brows. So this little blend right here on my hand is like what I've been wearing a lot on my eyes. I will talk very briefly about these glosses from Persona because I showed them in my other video about the things that didn't make it through PR, because there's a third color, a pink one, that I decided to give away to a friend. But I I'm surprised at myself by how much I like this coral one. I just feel like it's, I don't know, there's something like I said in that video, it gives me this kind of like sulky, pouty look. I like to really like overline my lips with it, like put it all over outside of the edges of my lips and just make my lips look like this pouty, sulky, weird, shiny thing. This one's a much more classic, kind of easy to wear gloss. But actually this red gloss, if you guys follow me on Twitter, I have a Twitter account that's just dedicated to the funny things that Joe says. It's called Life with Joe, and my Twitter handle is @LifeWithJoe. You should follow me on Twitter. So this is the gloss I was wearing when Joe looked across the room at me and yelled, "Your lips are so glossy, out of control." And then I tweeted about it. This was that gloss. And this is another product that I showed briefly in that video because there's another product by this brand that I decided not to keep. It's by Fleur and B, and it's the Creme de la Cream. So it is just a straight up, extremely effective, basic moisturizing cream at a decent price. So it's definitely like the definition of mid-range skincare. It's not like Drunk Elephant Sunday Riley, but it's also not drugstore prices. But I do think that they've taken a little bit more care with everything from the packaging to the formulation to the concept than a lot of drugstore brands take. So if you're looking for something like mid-range, then this is a new brand that it might be good to know about. If mid-range skincare is kind of like where your preferences fall, this is probably ideal for someone who wants a simpler routine, for someone who is maybe in his or her 20s, like maybe not mid to late 30s when you're starting to really put the pedal to the metal in terms of anti-aging, but before that, I think that this brand could be worth looking into. Very, very pretty products, simple, effective, decently priced, and I'm definitely going to pan this. I'm going to use it up. I've been using it as my last stage, sealing in everything else night cream at night. This is another product that came through Octoly that I also showcased on my Instagram, actually. It is the Thick Volumizing Base by Amika. And I really wanted to try this because I saw Katie Jane Hughes showcasing it on her Instagram, and I really admire her, and her hair looked amazing in the picture. And a volumizing base is like my exact jam when it comes to hair care. When I wash my hair, which is about once a week, maybe once every 10 days, while it's wet, I will sort of towel dry it, and then I'll get a product like this and put a tiny bit into my hair, scrunch it all in, and let it air dry overnight, and I wake up with a lot of volume. So I actually had run out of that type of product. I'd been using a bunch of little sample sizes. I had a bunch during my Know About year that I slowly panned one by one, and I didn't have anything. So I had been using like texturizing spray in my hair after washing, which isn't ideal. So this is the perfect time to try this because it was filling a hole in my collection. I like it. It does work. It's supposed to be ideal for people who have thinner hair, which isn't me. I do love a ton of volume, but I could also see it working for someone with thinner hair. I don't love it with the passion of 1,000 burning suns because it's a little bit sticky, and a little goes a very long way. In fact, the first time I used it, I made the mistake. What am I doing? I don't need to swatch this. It's just a cream. Like, you can see what it looks like. It looks like a sort of a sticky, gummy cream. I used a little bit too much the first time, and I woke up with incredible volume, but with a little bit too much tackiness in my hair. I ended up rinsing it out a little while after that, and then I went back in with like a third or a quarter of the amount that I had used, like this, the teeniest little drop. And it really emulsifies and spreads through the hair, and then it does its job beautifully without leaving any kind of stickiness behind in the hair. So I'm used to, when I have a product like this, piling it in. I'm used to like more being more because I have such thick hair. It turns out with this, less is more, which I guess is good because it means that this little bottle will last me a really long time. So it's a really, really good product. I don't feel like it's flawless because there's that one little ease of use thing. You have to be a little bit careful to just use the tiniest bit, but it does work beautifully. So I'm really happy to have this guy. I would kind of put these in the same category. This is the Iope Plant Stem Cell Cream, and I'm using it as a night cream too. Both of these, I want to say this one's in the like under $30, and I think this one's on YesStyle for about $40. And this one claims to have much more technology in it, and it's supposed to be anti-aging as well. So this might be a bit more of a heavy hitter. But just like with this one, it's the kind of thing where if you pretty much just use a moisturizer and you want one that's not too expensive, either one of these could be great. If you incorporate a moisturizer as the last step in a multifaceted skincare routine that includes a lot of expensive serums and oils, which is what I tend to do, then this is like on the high end price-wise. At least that's how I feel. I shouldn't be saying you. I try to just tell you how I feel and what I do, because I know that, you know, everyone's different, to each her own. But in my life, with my budget, the $40 for this would be a bit too much for this type of product. But in terms of efficacy, it's great. It's perfectly great. I'm happy to be having it. I think I might be getting to the end of my rope in terms of filming. I'm happy to have it, and I will use it up. And lastly, this is the Nacific Fresh Herb Origin Serum. It's a biphase serum, which means that it's got like a watery liquid and an oil mixed in together. So before using it, I'll shake it up and get the oil and the water mixed together, and then I'll take it out with the dropper with them mixed together in the dropper. I don't know why I'm explaining this. It's so obvious, but that's how you use a biphase serum, if you ever wondered. I really like biphase products. As you can tell, I've used, I don't know if you can tell from up there, but I've used a full third of this bottle. It's like a third empty. I received this at BeautyCon from a booth that was representing a couple of different K-beauty brands, because this is a K-beauty product. It's very simple. Like I find that it's good for sealing in moisture. It's good for layering in as like a moisturizing step. I don't think it's doing anything spectacular in terms of like really changing like the surface of my skin, retexturizing, lightening spots, or anything like that. There's nothing that happened when I started using it that just made me go, wow. But it's definitely nourishing, and it smells good. It smells like citrus, like it smells like oranges. It smells good, it feels good going on, it really sinks in, and then it leaves behind a little bit of oily slip on the skin that it feels like it's creating a moisturizing layer. And I find it enjoyable to use on a tactile level, because it has this little dropper bottle, the little glass dropper thing that comes out. I just really like it. And I think when it comes to a product like this, where it's just like a moisturizing layer of skincare, the important thing to me is that I use it, that I want to use it, because I have a number of sort of single ingredient serums like hyaluronic acid serum or just niacinamide serum, and I don't particularly relish using them, and going through a bunch of layers of serums is kind of fussy. So what happens is I end up reaching for this one because I really, really like using it. I like the smell, the feel, the texture, the experience, everything about it. And so that makes it like a real win in my book, because I feel like it's good for my skin, and there's something about it that's making me actually progress with putting it on my skin. And at this point, that says a lot. So I'm definitely going to go ahead and keep this and use it up. Okay, so here are the products that made it through my big double video reckoning. It's an interesting spread because some of these are products that I really needed, like this one. I didn't have an eyebrow pencil for a while, and then this one arrived in PR, and now it's my only one. That's also true of this product. It's the only product of this nature that I have. And then some of them are totally extraneous to my collection. They're just treats in my collection, like these 3 eyeshadow palettes. I have plenty of eyeshadow. I don't need any of these, but I love all 3 of them, and I don't want to let any of them go. I definitely have lip products. Didn't need to keep these lip glosses, but they're so beautiful. I'm excited to add them into my collection. The blush probably falls into that category. And then some of them, like this Erin's Faces concealer, it's a type of product, a concealer that exactly matches my skin tone, that blends out, evening out my red and sometimes blotchy skin. I didn't have anything like this, and I didn't even know that this would work for that purpose. So it's something that really, really surprised me, but that I've been enjoying using a lot. So this was fun. I enjoyed the diversity in this part of this reckoning. That is it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you are remembering to take extra good care of yourself this week so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.